Glen Coe, perhaps the most famous valley in Scotland, where the River Coe flows down between two massive ridges, their steep and spectacular slopes the destination for both climbers and walkers who seek remoteness and adventure. The place itself is steeped in history and legend too. This was the home of the mythical Celtic kings Fingal and Ossian. In more recent times, the scene of the terrible massacre of the MacDonalds in 1692. Now one of the most popular destinations in Scotland, what brings all the travellers, tourists and adventurers is of course this landscape. Stark and beautiful, brooding and brutal. At first sight you might think this is no place to go racing, but the organisers of the Salomon Glencoe Skyline, one of the most extreme mountain races in the world, would beg to differ. Only the strongest will survive this 55-kilometre ultramarathon with 5,000 metres of ascent and descent. Bravery and bodily strength will be tested to the limit. Starting and finishing in Kinloch Leven, the competitors register and have their mandatory safety gear checked before they set off. 30% of the competitors come from abroad, and in the age of the internet, they'll be familiar with the route, knowing that this is not a race to be taken lightly. It begins with an ascent from Kinloch Leven to access Glencoe itself via the Devil's Staircase. After this, the competitors take on the ascent of the first major mountain of the race, Buccleuch Moor. There's constant climbing and descending as they make their way along the southern peaks before crossing the glen to reach the final challenge of the Aonach Eagach Ridge. After events in Italy and Norway, this race is the climax of the Extreme Skyrunner World Series, and potentially the most extreme of them all. With the series up for grabs for today's winner, the event has attracted a field of top-class international talent, as well as a few hundred who want to challenge themselves on what race director Shane Oley considers the ultimate mountain running course.
When people apply to join the race, they have to submit a CV, and every application is individually vetted, and if they say they've done X, we check it. This year we turned away 33% of the applicants because we felt they didn't have the right background to be safe on the course. So it's a proper elite race. This is the Formula One of mountain running here. And there's many kilometres of technical rock climbing and scrambling on high exposed mountains. It's one of the toughest mountain races in the world.
In that case, it's no wonder there are nerves amidst the applause. Last year was the inaugural running of this race, with the winners Joe Simmons in 7 hours 36 and the legendary Emily Forsberg in 7 hours 44. And while those at the front of the field will need to challenge those records to have a chance of winning, those further back will take a lot longer and face a very long day in the mountains before they come back to Kinloch Leven. Kim Collison in the blue top leads early on, but the big names in the men's and women's races, with top international talent in both, are staying in the pack so far. It's the job of course planner Gary Thompson to make sure that today's victors and all the finishers more than earn their medals.
We have licence to make it almost as hard as is feasibly completable. It's extreme and it needs to stand out. Glencoe Skyline is quite different to the other international races and does set it apart, is that we do not put any protection on the route. So we don't have any fixed ropes, there is no via ferrata. You're not going to be clipping into anything. The climbing is low-grade climbing, high-grade scrambling. And we make that very evident that it's going to be hands-on at times.
The first big test today, Buccleuch Moor. This course does not break them in gently. The race is already thinning out, with Switzerland's Mark Lauenstein first and Tom Owens second. The chasing pair are Englishman Jonathan Albon and locally based Finlay Wild. Second-placed Owens, himself based in Glasgow, is a national champion with years of experience around the world as part of the elite Salomon Trail team.
I do like to run in these hills. I don't get up here as much as I'd like, but yeah, I've been around the route before. I love the ridges and the scrambling. It's a tough race.
The ascent of Curved Ridge is classified as an exposed moderate rock climb. It leads to the 1,000-metre summit of Stob Jereg. As they approach the first technical sections, Tom Owens and Finlay Wild lead. Wild, based nearby in Fort William, will be totally familiar with this route, and he has the advantage of that familiarity, and of course will know that concentration is crucial at every moment. Lauenstein, another contender, is back in third. Jonathan Albon, three-time obstacle racing world champion, finds his agility useful as he makes the ascent.
You have to really break it down and just concentrate on the next bit. If you think about the entire race in its entirety, it can really break you down. Not only is it longer than a marathon, you have to climb nearly 5,000 metres of ascent as well. So if you think about that as a whole, you're going to just break down. So you have to really take it chunk at a time.
Relatively new to sky running, but successful in that short time, he'll challenge today. As in the men's race, the women's winner has a chance to secure the Extreme Skyrunner World Series title with victory in this event. Jasmine Paris is an Edinburgh-based vet currently studying for her PhD. She was runner-up last year and leads so far today.
Come on, Jasmine.
It's probably one of the most technical races certainly that you'll run in the UK for sure. It's long, it's pretty rough terrain, so it's not your average road marathon. It's definitely special.
New Zealand's Ruth Croft, a former international steeplechaser and winner of the 100-kilometre Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc CCC, is second.
I wouldn't really say I'm a technical runner, but I went up Curved Ridge the other day and I was a bit scary, yeah. But I also, a friend took me up Ben Nevis Tower Ridge, and he said, well, if you can go up Tower Ridge, then Curved Ridge is going to be okay. I wouldn't say this is my strength, but it's just, I know it's a challenge and it's an awesome course.
It's a slow climb for some, and by now the leading men are over the top of Buccleuch Moor. They then head west on the ridges that lead, with many more ups and downs on the way, to Bidian Nam Bian. By now, Tom Owens has built a 40-second lead over a chasing group of three, with Mark Lauenstein leading this trio. The Swiss dentist is a former champion of the Sierre Zinal, Pikes Peak and Matterhorn Ultrax races. Wild and Albon are close behind, the three soon working together on reeling in the potentially dangerous lead that Owens has built up. Soon climbing again, the next target is Bidian, the highest point of the course. The lead four looks set to smash last year's race record.
This is now my hobby, let's say, but of course my heart still likes to perform well, and I try to do well at those races, and I want to see what's out there, and I think I have a natural talent for mountain running, so yeah, I try myself out on those races, and this is definitely a race you have to do once because it's absolutely unique, and yeah, I think everyone who finishes this course is very brave.
At the summit, the pace and the pressure are starting to show. Albon looks strained as he leads Owens and Lauenstein, while Finlay Wild has lost touch with the lead group.
Well done, guys. Well done. Good climbing. Thank you.
It's still friendly at the front, but at some point someone will have to make their move.
I love to race, I love to perform well, I love to push my limits, and I love to see how I compare to other athletes. So competing in a competition like this is a perfect way to do it. So to come in top 5 would be an absolute dream. It's a melding of everything. That's why you've really got to be an overall athlete to do this sort of thing. You can't just be good at any one thing. You've really got to have a whole skill set behind you.
Over halfway through the race and descending towards Glen Coe once more, the lead men focus on every step. Jasmine Paris still leading, enjoying the respite of a smoother section, though she seems to enjoy the tough summits just as much.
Extreme sky running, I think even more so than sky running itself, it really plays the strengths of a fell runner. Very technical, you know, rocky, rough, exposed terrain. So yeah, definitely plays to my strengths. I hate running along road on trails, and I enjoy it when it gets interesting and you have to sort of think about where you're putting your feet.
Although under pressure from Norway's Malene Blikkenhauke, New Zealander Ruth Croft remains in second.
It's just so extreme and so different, and just like it's so drastic compared to what your standard like trail race or even like your road race. It's just a totally different ball game, and yeah, it's just the excitement of giving it a go.
The leaders still face the descent to Glen Coe and another long, hard climb to reach the Aonach Eagach Ridge, perhaps the most difficult, certainly the most notorious section of the route. A breathtaking scramble high above Glen Coe, where this year's race will be decided. Welcome back to Scotland for the Salomon Glencoe Skyline. This 55-kilometre ultramarathon includes 5,000 metres of ascent and descent as it takes in the ridges that tower over the valley. The leading runners, Mark Lauenstein, Tom Owens and Jonathan Albon, descend into Glen Coe itself over halfway through the race. After crossing the road, it's the biggest single climb of the course to reach the summit of Scornam Fianny and the Aonach Eagach Ridge, a section that demands sure footing and steady progress as the runners travel on narrow ledges with often vertical drops to both sides. That's all to come as Lauenstein, Owens and Albon once again leave the road and head for the heights. For much of the time, only the race helicopter will have any chance of tracking them. And with the weather worsening, even that could prove difficult. An arduous second half of the race is in prospect for all these competitors as they descend into Glen Coe and see what lies ahead. And tired legs sometimes make mistakes. Some still have a spring in their step though. And with relentless physical and mental effort, the day seems to be over for some. On this monumental climb up to Scornam Fianny, there's been a potentially decisive change at the front. Jonathan Albon, moving lightly and carefully over the terrain, follows the race markers to the summit. He's 50 minutes ahead of the race record set last year and 50 seconds ahead of Mark Lauenstein. though the chasing Swiss athlete is perhaps more experienced on the type of terrain that the Eagach Ridge holds in store.
You're in the mountains and you're immersed in them. You're just travelling across the mountains, just you and your little bit of gear, going across light and fast, and you really sort of get that connection to the land. You obviously don't get too much time to stop and look at the view and whatnot. Such a high sense of concentration, and you're just sort of completely in the moment, and that's a great feeling to have, especially in these beautiful mountains.
There's no doubt the mountains are beautiful, but also potentially dangerous as the clouds continue to roll in. Owens, only a few minutes behind, chases Albon into the mist.
The margins are so fine as it is, a small change in weather can make quite a difference. It can get cold, people can get miserable, some people have to stop to put jackets on and off more often, and ultimately with the wet ground it makes it more slippery and more dangerous up there, so people might be a bit more cautious here and there, so it can make a massive difference.
As the racers move on to the Eagach Ridge, it's eyes down on the wet rock. And strictly single file. Jasmine Paris still leads the women's race. The biggest threat to the leader comes from Elena Blickenhauke. She's paced her effort well, moving from 4th to 2nd as the finish approaches.
The terrain in Norway is pretty similar to this, I think. We have a lot of mountains, steep uphills and downhills, and very technical terrain, so I think this should be good for me and a nice course, I think. This is just so beautiful. Oh my God.
Albon, meanwhile, still leads, running without fear. Almost time to start the final descent into Kinloch Leven, and Owens is making a comeback. He's still close enough to challenge and has already passed Lauenstein. It's all in a day's work for mountain racers like these.
It's manageable, the ridges, I mean you do have to be very careful, but if you don't mess up, I think it's not dangerous. It's just you really have to be cautious and know what you do and don't try to rush there.
Perhaps a little more cautious than his rivals, Lauenstein has lost time on the Eagach Ridge. With the down climbs as difficult as the up climbs, it can be slow progress. With all of that behind him, Albon is the first to come into view for those waiting near the finish in Kinloch Leven. Still trailing by a few minutes, Tom Owens will run out of ground on his effort to catch up, but it's been an amazing effort from the top 4 men who will all smash the current race record. Albon by the biggest margin as he crosses the line to win in a time of 6 hours 33 minutes, becoming the Skyrunning Extreme World Series champion in the process.
I just got a gap and I knew I kind of had to keep it, so it was kind of like a mixture of supreme concentration and just sort of like trying to move as fluidly as possible sort of thing without putting myself in undue danger. I think it's probably the best achievement of my life so far in my sporting career, so I can't believe it.
Owens is second, only 3 minutes behind.
The course is pretty full-on technical and a real adventure, so I think for most of us it's just really pleasing to get around it and finish, and it's a big sense of achievement.
Part-time trail runner, full-time dentist Mark Lauenstein is third in 6 hours 54.
Quite proud I survived the course already. So it's the first thing, and yeah, I'm also very happy that I managed to get through without any big troubles. I lost some time in the technical part, and yeah, the two first one were really strong, and yeah, I have to bow myself to them.
Confirmation then of Jonathan Albon's course record, winning ahead of Owens and Lauenstein, with Wild, Volley, Fallas and Reiter also beating last year's winning time. Emily Forsberg's record still stands in the women's race, though Jasmine Paris looks strong as she crosses the line in 8 hours 15, winning the Skyrunning Extreme Series as well as the race today.
I could see, I had several ladies that I could see behind me at various points in the race, so it certainly wasn't guaranteed. As I was running around, I was definitely questioning whether it was going to be first or second or third. Coming second last year was still good, but I knew there was something more I wanted to achieve, so it's nice to have come back and won it.
8 minutes behind, Milena Blickenhauke is second in the series and the race, a great reward for her patient approach.
On the start line this morning, I was just thinking I would take it easy from the start and enjoy the race and the nature around here. So I didn't expect very much actually. So I was really happy with second place. For a long time I was fourth, so yeah, I was really happy.
Victory for Jasmine Paris then, ahead of Blickenhauke. Britain's Sarah Ridgway takes third, whilst Kiwi Ruth Croft slips to fourth, and Italy's Martina Valmassoy rounding out the top 5. Jasmine Paris and Jonathan Albon, of course, make it look easy, but it's not. Finishing this race for most people is a massive achievement, and with even more Skyrunning World Series events coming to Scotland in 2017, including the third instalment of this one, there are plenty more challenges for all to look forward to.